Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Todd McFarlane Day. It is Friday. Hope you've got a great weekend planned for yourselves. We are looking at the next issue in his early 90s Spider-Man run. This is Spider-Man number 11, cover dated June 1991. Let's talk about the cover first. One thing I've talked about with Todd McFarlane about the consistency that he kind of lacks, and he kind of moves around in his depiction of characters. A little bit off model, a little bit off brand sometimes. So another example of Wolverine here, where the mask now doesn't necessarily correspond to what we've seen him doing over the past few issues, right? And we've already seen different kind of visual interpretations of his face and his claws as well. Sometimes they're nice and straight and pointy. Sometimes they seem round. Here they seem kind of drawn very quickly and rushed. McFarlane's talked about it, how important deadlines are to hit. So, I think a lot of the design work that he does is also in favor of not just looking cool and awesome and, pleasing the fanboys who read his comics, but also in meeting deadlines. So this cover is a good example of that. Apart from the depiction of Wolverine, I think it's still fun. And again, I've always had that love-hate relationship with Todd McFarlane's art in the way that, maybe I like some more consistency. Geez, every time I go to say that word. That's one of my things, right? I've consistency dyslexia. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so even though I'd like him to be consistent in some of his depictions, the fact that he's not and that we get different kind of weird versions of the same character is kind of fun as well. I've talked about this before, so, that's probably part of why I like it as well. I got to be honest. I can't say it's really love-hate. I do love his art. Imperfections and all, right? That's what's cool about individual artists. The quirks and the things that they do that make them different from other artists, right? I prefer an artist to be different than to be some sort of copycat of someone else. So Todd McFarlane definitely has created his own style for sure. The proof of that is other people copy him, right? Myself included to a certain extent, right? I definitely picked up some of his ticks along the way. So yeah, deadline issues. I really got away from that one. The kind of cover where, it looks busy and stuff, but the fact that he's thrown in this big kind of insert panel here of Spider-Man's face, which I'm sure at this point he could draw this in like 2, maybe 3 minutes, right? To draw this whole, he's drawn Spider-Man thousands of times, literally at this point. And not for lack of the cover not being interesting. It's very cool. It allows him not to have to draw much of the background hair and stuff of the Wendigo. So it seems like he's got more hair than he's actually had to draw. And the Wolverine overlapping the panel there is an old McFarlane trick to create those different planes and layering in the same image. So still a very effective cover, I think, and one I remember from back in the day. At least, maybe I don't remember the Spider-Man face so much, but I do remember this kind of shot here, which is really cool. And in this issue, Wolverine now shows up in his yellow and blue costume as his brown tan one he ripped up last issue, showboating and alpha mailing with the Wendigo. All right. Really cool, typical McFarlane kind of urban shot of the buildings, silhouettes, Spider-Man against the moon. Probably can get this done pretty quickly as well, and it looks really awesome and is very graphic. So story and pencils in this issue, inks Rick Magyar and McFarlane. Again, help me out in the comments below with the pronunciation if you know how to say this. Is it Magyar? Is it Magyar? Is it Magyar? Let me know if you know. I am curious, genuinely. So this issue, like as it's stated here, story and pencils, Todd McFarlane, inks, Magyar and McFarlane, Rick Parker letters, and Gregory Wright color. So a lot of this is inked by this Rick Magyar dude, who apparently used to be, or was, or at this period at least, a friend of McFarlane's or an acquaintance or something. And there's parts, it's hard for me to tell throughout. I do think maybe these early pages are inked by this Magyar guy. There's a softer kind of aspect to some of the finish here that doesn't seem very Todd McFarlane and noodly, right? The face is here. This page is a good example of that. It's McFarlane again, pencils underneath for sure in his compositions and stuff. And his, the major lines are his, but the finish is not completely anyways. Magyar, it's a close approximation. I'm sure he's trying to go for that as much as he can, but there's, moments where you've seen the shot of Peter Parker here by McFarlane before. And there's something a little bit different here in the finish, right? It's not exactly McFarlane. Seems maybe a little more late 80s than early 90s, right? The styles are shifting around this time. And this panel here, I don't know exactly what must have happened here, but there's no McFarlane in that panel to me. I don't feel it. Even though it's inked by Magyar here, this definitely feels like McFarlane. This, I don't know what happened there. Not so much. But I mean, he does help to keep the art fairly consistent. I do think it's him here too, like a faraway shot, like I was talking about with the Dale Keown review this week, earlier this week, when Mark Farmer's inking him. The faraway shots is where you can kind of tell where it's not so much Keown, or maybe the inker doing a little bit more of the work on the finished look of it. I do feel like this is very little McFarlane. He probably drew something pretty simple, and Magyar kind of filled in the blanks, if you will, or Magyar, Rick. This is a very McFarlane shot as well, but again, the way it's finished leads me to think that, again, Magyar was doing this one. But I'll stop trying to point that out because their styles are fairly complementary. And I just really don't know, 100%. I don't feel I can judge who did what. At least it's hard. It does feel a lot like McFarlane here, but I could be wrong. Great shot though, Wolverine. He's very, very 3D and round here. Great volume. Weird underwear folds all of a sudden. Like here, to me, Wolverine looks a little more on model, I guess. In McFarlane's hands. So he finds Wendigo, who's been injured, right? He's been shot. This, I would again venture to say, with the hatching and the finish on the buildings and stuff, that's not McFarlane ink in this page. Even though, again, it's pretty faithful. Again, it's not jarring. It fits. Yeah, the whole finish on this page as well just feels a little bit different, a little bit off from McFarlane. I remember them using this for a card, some sort of card set, and I always thought, yeah, looks a little different from regular McFarlane stuff. Looks a little more just kind of generic 90s Spider-Man than specifically McFarlane, other than these little details here, maybe on the arm, and the way he draws the spider emblem on the chest. And then we get to like this page where I feel the noodly coming back, right? The face, these kind of parallel lines and stuff, little ticks everywhere. Feels like McFarlane's back, right, on this page. Do like the coloring. I don't know if I've talked about it much throughout this series with Wolverine guest starring, but the colors overall I think are really good. Obviously Wolverine's yellow and blue, maybe that made me notice it and really pops. But yeah, there's just a good level of flats and just a little bit of modulation here and there and some highlights. I've talked about it before, this newsprint paper. This is the best production value. It's what I prefer in comics. It's the best looking comics to me. So Wolverine does something a little bit different here, kind of performs the duty of a surgeon and pulls this bullet out of Wendigo. And I feel like most of this is probably McFarlane as well, these pages. Guess he was, really enjoying drawing Wolverine, so he wanted to ink those as well. Although this page as well does feel like here's a good example. See how the faraway shot here of Peter Parker still looks like it was done by McFarlane? So that's what kind of clues me in that he inked this page as well. It's when you look at those faraway shots that there can be more, less detail in the pencils, and the inker has more room for interpretation. That's where it can start to look a bit different, like in some of those Hulk backgrounds and faraway shots from this week's issue. This, again, this is too McFarlane to not be McFarlane. So I could see him really enjoying just inking those funny McFarlane, weirdly proportioned, cartoony faces. And basically this issue, again, still arguing, about this whole situation with the kids being killed and buried, right? And they're trying to blame Wendigo, but Wendigo didn't do it, so Wolverine's there to help him out. The one consistent thing that with Wolverine's representation, maybe in this issue he is a little more consistent with Wolverine. He's kind of locked it in, maybe. The hook nose he's got from the very beginning, I guess I've said it before. I think it works for Wolverine, so kind of cool. Makes it a little bit. It's a different version of Wolverine. No one's really done that before. And the cigarette here is not as. It's funny. He has Wolverine smoking cigarettes mostly, not cigars. I don't know if that's a choice or something. Why he's doing that, not quite sure. But here, at least, as cigarettes go, it's a little bit cartoony and curved and stuff, but pretty good. Some depictions of McFarlane that McFarlane does of Wolverine smoking, I would have to say that what he's smoking on looks like a doobie, more like a joint, much more than an actual cigarette. And hey, if Wolverine smokes pot, I mean, it makes sense. Maybe try to calm down his aggressive attitude. I don't know. Always thought this page was pretty cool. He's bringing back some of the stuff he was doing on the Hulk. I feel like that's kind of a reference to some. He's drawn the Hulk kind of in this position before, probably in his Incredible Hulk run. That would make sense. I'd have to look that up, but it's very similar. I had that shot in my head. I could see it, and just kind of a sweet touch here. Wolverine and Wendigo, holding hands, becoming buddies. And I like the depiction of the Wendigo here. Lots of McFarlane lines. Parallel lines, and here it's again I'm pretty sure that's McFarlane, although I could be wrong, but I do feel like most of these lines feel like his. And he does the old McFarlane thing where he drops out one whole shape that should be shaded in and leaves it to the colorist to throw in a color, and sometimes it doesn't work. This is one of the examples where I think it kind of works because he's thrown in a darker color, first of all, which is smart, obviously, for a shadow, and these parallel lines all the way through that McFarlane has hand-drawn, because, excuse me, get that from not moving, apologies, hit the camera. These parallel lines are not exactly perfect. If you get over here, they kind of angle up a little bit, not that it matters, but that's what tells me it's not a screen tone, and that's all done by hand. Here's just kind of a cool designy, Spider-Man thinking to himself page. So McFarlane gets in and out of it pretty quickly. This page was probably drawn very quickly, even though it looks awesome. Just lots of negative space, quick silhouette of a building. Can't imagine that took too much time. Quick silhouette of Spider-Man. He can do this in his sleep, right? Throws in that panel behind everything, behind the other two. So it creates like 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of planes and depth within just this one page here, and then adds the kind of cool shot of Spider-Man on top of all those, right? So you can assume if he's in front of this is in front of that, that's in front of this, and you know what I mean? Like he's just creating all those different layers with simple tricks, right? And it just creates that sense of depth, which is awesome. And a cool, very highly silhouetted shot of Spider-Man here where he looks kind of creepy and spidery, which again, he's probably done 1,000 times. So, I can imagine Tom McFarlane doing this page in about an hour and a half. Is that possible? And then he's done for the day. Moves on to the next page tomorrow. Yeah, here's another one of those creepy pages. So he knows Wolverine's looking for something. I don't know why he decided to split it up this way. I don't think it works or makes any particular sense for that all these words to be separate like that to fit the rhythm of the panels. He could have just had that whole thing in the first panel and just kept the panels going. I think that they would read easier. So, you would go to this first panel and there'd be a bigger dialogue box where you still understand that that's the fly's eye, right? Even if it's covered, even if almost half the panel is covered, you still get it. And you just have all this text. I just hope he was able to find something in this first panel, and then you just let the images talk, right? I mean, he was trying something here. Obviously, he was being experimental. Very few issues under his belt as far as writing, but just real quick, as an editor, I would have said, Todd, let's just have all of this in one box here and let the people appreciate the art and let the art talk for itself, really. Because now you're kind of like, and to the brain, doesn't connect these sparse words from panel to panel as much as just reading the whole sentence in one whole box here. Just my opinion. And yeah, obviously Wolverine here and Wendigo uncovering another dead child that's been buried. So leave us with a shot of some McFarlane inked image for sure. Wendigo's wild hair. He's not very happy about all this. Neither is Wolverine. And next issue, we've got the conclusion to this series here, Perceptions. Is that what it's called? Perceptions, yeah. So that was Perceptions, part 4 of 5, Spider-Man issue 11. Those are my thoughts on it. Hope you enjoyed the review. If you are subscribed and you're still watching, thank you so much for being loyal to the channel. If you are not subscribed but you're watching, please do so below. It takes very little time for you, and it helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps us get us out there to other people who are interested in the same kind of stuff that we are, namely comic books. Thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. Everyone out there, have a great day.
Like, subscribe. Like, subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or big baby.